I have to start by just acknowledging that video, it's pretty humbling. It's actually still a little too emotional, I think. It's a humbling reminder of the journey that we have shared together over these past 2 years. And honestly, these past 2 years were following right on the heels of historic student achievement gains and a remarkable, energy-filled community conversation about our hopes, our dreams, and our aspirations for what would be possible for the young people so that we could have a laser focus on our future and a community-inspired strategic plan. Sort of all at once. Hopes were lost, certainty felt confusing, and all the momentum felt halted. It seemed like that might just be a few minutes, maybe 2 weeks, until it turned into possibly indefinitely. But there were bright spots, so many bright spots, and there is evidence that we have strength in this community. It is found in the experiences of our young people. It is found in our school employees, and it is found in profound interagency coordination in this community that I believe is not replicated in any other county across the country. And that's why I stand here not alone. It's why I stand here with Josh and Joe and Lily, and Sherry Matthews would be here but had a conflict today. I stand here not alone to demonstrate that Henry County Schools does not operate in this community independently. We do not operate unilaterally. We do not make decisions in isolation. As a matter of fact, these colleagues and I have partnered in and out of every single day, particularly over the last 2 years, because we consider our responsibility to be service to a shared community and to build a path for a shared future. So to set the context for our state of the schools, I think we first have to get a sense of the state of our community, because our schools are as strong as our community, and our community is as strong as our schools. These are community leaders who deserve more than a round of applause. They worked overnight through weekends for 24 consecutive months to make sure we had a healthcare system that was strong when we needed it most, that we had an economy that sustained the strains of a season of unprecedented unpredictability, and that we had, on the other side of a pandemic, a community with shared strength and shared focus on how we create incredible spaces for young kids. And that's what our community leadership partnership represents today. Now, navigating COVID required more from everyone in our community. It required more from every single employee in our school system. We're home to 43,000 students served in 52 schools and programs across the district, and that includes Impact Academy, which just a decade ago served a handful of students, and started this school year with 5,000 enrolled students as we opened up our campuses for on-campus learning in every one of our other campuses. And navigating COVID, well, it presented more than its share of obstacles, but the best education available was available right here in Henry County Schools because of the 6,000 employees that absolutely dedicated every day for kids. That includes 3,400 teachers who were flexible, tenacious. They never stopped caring about kids. They never stopped caring about their safety, their well-being, and, well, their learning. We started the school year 99% staffed in our certified positions, and believe it or not, we have a 97% retention rate of our teachers in years 1 to 3. We know we have work to do for our teaching profession, but let me tell you about a new teacher. An Ola Middle School first-year teacher, Mr. Stanley. Well, he's already mastered the instructional practices necessary in a classroom. But what was unbelievable was his commitment to build connectivity with every single student. As a first-year teacher, Mr. Stanley attended every single school athletic event and school event so that his kids could see he was going to be cheering for them no matter where they were performing. Mr. Stanley went well above and beyond the call of duty, but Mr. Stanley, like every one of our teachers, believes every kid needs a champion in their corner every day. And that's what teachers in Henry County Schools does. It's our 52 principals who need a long nap, and their leadership teams who led fearlessly. They should have laughed more than that, but maybe they're sleeping right now. I don't know. They led fearlessly. They led relentlessly. They literally led an entire community on their backs. I am so amazed by what leaders have been able to do with care and confidence the entire time. You know, our teachers could teach and our leaders could lead because we actually build such strong safety nets for kids that every need of a young person is met through their interaction with their school community. We make sure that a culture of care is not left to chance for kids. As a matter of fact, we have 22 social workers, and do you know what those 22 social workers have been able to do in this year alone? They made 600 home visits to make sure kids were safe, healthy, and ready to come back to school. 600 from 22 people. They served 1,300 students who in Henry County are identified as homeless. And they partnered with, of course, the amazing Operation Lunchbox, and they served 24,000 bags of groceries in this year alone. That's the Henry County social work team. But you know what? That's a bunch of numbers. And let me tell you, those numbers are powerful. But what's more powerful are the stories behind those numbers. I'm going to tell you about a student, and we're going to call him T. Well, T is considered an unaccompanied minor, meaning that he's without a parent or guardian and considered homeless. Well, T was not going to be left to chance in our culture of care. T has had the advocate and the assistance of our social workers. And those social workers ensured that T had an operable car, completed a FAFSA, completed college applications, and stayed on track to graduate on time with the class of 2022. Now, he's known for his incredible determination and positivity, but recently actually had a car break down, and his first concern was that he would be off track to get to graduation on time. Well, our social workers weren't going to let any barrier stand in the way. Our social workers found a way to repair the car, provide gas cards for use in the car, and have been right by his side to stay on track to graduation. And guess where I think they'll be going next year? We might be losing some social workers to college as they join T, a student that they have advocated for, because no child's future is left to chance in our hands. It's a powerful story, but it's one of millions where students are actually seen as families and barriers are removed and needs are met because our safety net is so strong. It's coupled with the 127 counselors who this year alone have conducted 24,000 small group counseling sessions with young people because they've been at the heart of keeping kids connected to school and on track academically. It's with our 53 mental health and wellness facilitators, a new role for Henry County Schools this very year, and now we honestly cannot remember what we ever did before they existed. When we returned to a full-time on-campus experience for 98% of our kids, they made more than 2,000 calls in the first 3 days of school to make sure families knew they had someone to connect to as they navigated the uncertainty. They built wellness plans at every school, and they facilitated what we call Henry Cares check-ins, which are just that, checking in. We wanted to make sure that mental health and wellness facilitators could connect with any student needing intervention at any given moment. Now, there's no doubt, students struggled, staff struggled. Quite frankly, I think the world has struggled. And we as a school system have felt the impact of that. And often, our employees were going far beyond the hours of a typical workday, starting in the early dawn of morning, well into the late night. And they were fulfilling our simple commitment. We started this year saying every child was to know that they are loved in a Henry County school, that they belong in a Henry County school, and that they have a caring adult to talk to if they ever need to. And we weren't perfect at this. And just like everywhere in communities, we have had our share of challenges. But for every instance of conflict, what you couldn't see behind that were principals, teachers, counselors, mental health and wellness facilitators, and so many employees dedicated to healing, to resolving, and to restoring hope and focus for young people. You see, we want our kids to find school to be a success without distractions, and our belief is that every student truly should know that they are deeply loved and that they deeply belong, and that we want to connect them with a champion for their life. And it's not just in our talk, it's actually in our actions to make sure every child has this feeling. Our psychologists actually facilitated 12,000 individual consultations for both teachers, staff, and students to provide additional support. Our SROs, which are staffed by our partner at the Sheriff's Office, have been a critical component to our safety strategy and a part of how we mentor and build relationships with kids. It's our 240 bus drivers who run 710 daily bus routes, and they transport 18,000 students every single day. And in 1 year, they will drive 1.8 million miles. And our school year started out and is still continuing to have some strains in supporting transportation of young people. And that affected the lives of every family, and it affected your commute as a community member. But despite those strains, our bus drivers deserve to be celebrated. Their resiliency and dedication to the way they make school accessible to kids is actually remarkable. And we have stabilized operations, but we know that an 89% on-time delivery rate is not good enough. And so we have a very dedicated improvement plan as we get ready for next year, including hiring new drivers, training with new techniques, and now being the district with the most competitive pay for drivers in the entire region. And here's the other thing about bus drivers. I'm not sure if you have to drive with 72 children behind you on a regular basis, but it isn't only about driving for them. Their relationships to kids are real. We had one bus driver who noticed that there was a student wearing the same clothes to school every day. And that bus driver connected with the school counselor. And together, bus driver and school counselor together supporting a family to provide additional resources in the home. Even more recently, there was a bus driver who noticed that there was a student who didn't want to stand at the bus stop. Asking why, they realized it was because an animal had been struck and was still there on the road. Do you know that after the entire route was run, that bus driver went back to that child's bus stop in order to remove that animal in order to create the space where a child felt comfortable to start their day? Our bus drivers are in and out of the lives of young people, and that's what makes it worthy to celebrate every one of those who serve in our transportation department. Now, you know, we're also home to 11 licensed nurses. 11 licensed nurses who had to navigate the ever-changing recommendations regarding COVID protocols. But those 11 nurses also single-handedly vaccinated 2,500 of our employees in the only closed point of distribution vaccination site in the state of Georgia, hosted by a school system. And it is the key reason why we were 93% vaccinated as a workforce right here in Henry County Schools. That is how we kept our employees healthy and our schools open for kids. Now, it's not just about our 11 nurses, it's our 53 clinic aides that they work with who have actually seen 110,000 visits to their clinic this year. Our 260 school nutrition employees never once stopped reporting to work after March 13th, 2020. And this school year alone, they served 4.8 million meals in both a curbside and an in-school, on-campus service style. We know that no child can go hungry in order to learn. And imagine supply chain challenges, staffing shortages, and delivery delays never phased our school nutrition staff for getting over the next hurdle and making a meal possible for our kids. We have 321 custodians who serve in our partner agency, and those custodians were critical to our cleansing and disinfecting techniques, but they also were critical to how we could keep schools open. coupled with our grounds crew. Do you know that our grounds crew manage 1,500 acres of land and 88 acres of natural turf and 23 acres of synthetic turf? Our grounds crew were critical to making athletics available to kids and keeping our schools ready to host our students. Now, our blue shirts, as they are affectionately known, our facilities and maintenance team, who first of all made this happen, have also completed 30,000 work orders this year, but that is after they completely redesigned the role that they played in our organization and installed all of our safety measures so that our schools could be open, and that included changing out 9,500 HVAC filters in this school year alone. It's 443 after-school employees that make an after-school program available for the families who need safe and reliable after-school care. Serving 2,000 students, our after-school program now includes STEM activities and physical education activities, making it a pure extension of that school day for our kids in after-school. And I believe we have a celebration for our 300 front office staff, bookkeepers, data clerks, our parent involvement professionals, and all of our assistants in the organization who answered countless questions, all of which that had no answers, yet they kept smiling and changed the answer the next day when there was a new answer to give. They took care of families every step along the way as everybody navigated a level of fear and concern. Do you know that as one of the only districts across the country that never missed a day of athletics, it was 800 athletic coaches and directors that made it possible for nearly 5,000 middle school and high school athletes to continue to participate and stay connected to a team and a coach? Now, we can celebrate the many athletic programs that are available to our young people, but it is not that they just participate, they're really good. 149 of our teams were in playoff contention this year. And we've had state championships in wrestling and in track, and we've had state runners-up in both girls and boys basketball, Luella High School girls and Eagles Landing High School boys. And I'll tell you, as Dr. Nutt knows, heartbreaking losses, and the reason why I still barely have a voice. Our visual arts teachers, our marching band directors, our chorus, orchestra, and concert band conductors, well, they kept us singing and creating and performing. And you got to see that on display in the hallway as you arrived. More than 12,000 of our middle school and high school students are enrolled in one of the arts programs. And the district has been honored as the best community for music education 2 years running. And that is because of the continued commitment of our fine arts educators. We had 9 high schools compete in state one-act plays. We had 12 students who were selected for the all-state orchestra, choir, and band. And Mindy Forehand, a teacher at Ola High School, will be taking a group of students to the most prestigious Carnegie Hall this summer. It's absolutely stunning what's being accomplished by our young artists, musicians, and talented teachers. And to top it off, we hosted our very first ever district-wide art gallery called Kaleidoscope. 1,000 people attended the gallery at Hood Street, which had 700 pieces of art on display, and one Bethlehem Elementary School student commented, with stars in their eyes, I might say, "I never thought I would see my artwork in a gallery." That's what our arts program provides. We actually have had 367 events at our McDonough and Fairview Performing Arts Centers, hosting 71,000 attendees to those programs. It has been a year where so many normal things could not happen, but right here in Henry County Schools, our laser focus on kids kept them happening. So why does it matter that we change air filters, install hand sanitizer stations, serve breakfast and lunch, provide counsel and advising? It matters so teachers can teach, leaders can lead, and students can learn. Despite all the odds, it was a team of 6,000 employees that made that possible. And we can see today that there's some early indicators that reveal the story in Henry County is not wrapped up in the national headlines about irrecoverable learning loss. No doubt, we want our outcomes to continue to grow like they were pre-pandemic. But today, there are 3 key metrics that we can say can give us hope that we are on our way. In 3rd grade, our students were 1st graders in March of 2020. And today, 19% more of them are reading on grade level than when they were in 1st grade. That is what early educators did in a pandemic. 9th grade algebra is another key indicator, and our early indication of our winter state assessment called the end of course test shows the performance to be within 1% of pre-pandemic performance. And one high school, Stockbridge High School, 8 percentage points higher than pre-pandemic performance. That's what high school teachers across this district have been doing. And on track for graduation is obviously top of everyone's mind, as Mahari so eloquently celebrated the class of 2022, who I believe has 11 days left, at least according to him. I think we have 4 weeks, but I guess seniors have 11 days. And what this year's class we can see is that 92% of them are still on track to graduate on time, which is absolutely amazing. And what we also know is that there are young people in our 10th and 11th grades where we have acceleration that's necessary to return to being on track to graduate. Now, all of this has occurred in the middle of a pandemic and in the middle of a year of which August was still a part of. Like this past August was still part of this year that we're still in. And that does seem like a decade ago. So I just thought I'd remind everybody that was still this year. But because our schools were open for learning and so many of our students and staff had the opportunity to excel, we have Anaya Augustine from Eagles Landing, who won 1st place at the State Georgia Spelling Bee and will once again be in the National Spelling Bee this summer. And we're going for it this time. Our robotics competitions, which were showcased here today, 11 of our VEX students are going to the world competition, and that team told me this afternoon that they're on their way next week. We had 376 students participate in literacy days across this county, and 25 placed in the regional event. And in our Georgia Young Authors competition, 70 students competed locally, and 3 have won and have advanced to the state competition. Fine arts, academics, athletics, all made possible by the employees in Henry County Schools, surrounded by a community who poured all of their energy and their care into what was happening. One of our seniors, a Union Grove High School senior, was the star student, and she won the regional star competition and is now in the state competition. And her teacher, Amanda McClure, a Union Grove High School teacher, was just recognized as the Educator of the Year across the country by the American Architect Association. It is unbelievable what can be accomplished when everyone is focused on kids and focused on opportunities for them. This class of 2022, they were sophomores when this pandemic began. And I know we've all worried about them. But guess what? Not only are they ready to graduate at Atlanta Motor Speedway thanks to that amazing partnership, but they are graduating with $20 million in scholarships earned, 16 of which are in academics. That's what kids today can make possible despite the odds. We've offered dual enrollment classes from Stanford and Harvard and Arizona State for the very first time. And one of our students participating from Stockbridge High School was just identified as having the highest score on a recent cloud computing test, which I don't even know what that means. So that sounds amazing. This is on top of a real and present reality that COVID, it was devastating people. It was leaving us in grief. It churned with uncertainty. We started to refer to the peaks of COVID that always seemed to coincide with us trying to open school after some type of break. We referred to them as Everests because you really didn't know how hard the climb was until you realized you weren't even near the top. We grieved, we felt the weight, we cried, like more than once, a lot of crying, because we allowed ourselves to experience the humanity in the middle of it all. We honored loss with moments of silence, and we stood defeated so many days, but we never once stood alone. And never did we lose our focus caring about kids, their families, and each other as team members. And that is why we're here today. That is why I believe in public education. It's why I believe we, each and every one of us, belong in Henry County right now. And it is why we can have together confidence that our future is indeed bright. I am so thankful that you have joined us today. We are going to showcase our young people who are extraordinary. And I believe you will leave here joining me, believing in public education, belonging right here in Henry County, and having confidence in an extraordinary future in the hands of today's youth. Students, teachers, leaders, and staff, they're amazing. But it's our Board of Education and their unified governance model that sets the conditions for what our children get to experience every day. I know that you recognize their tireless public service as members of our Board of Education, but it's also their work in setting our future and our vision clearly forward. With action they'll take in the next month, we will be positioned to adopt an FY23 budget that has historic investments in our students. Over the past 2 years, the per student investment will have increased $1,000, meaning more STEM activities, including a STEM special in every one of our 28 elementary schools. Robotics equipment in K2, 3, 5, and in our middle schools. Coding programs in elementary and middle, and an investment in fine arts programs so that over the next 5 years, every one of our elementary schools has a theater program, a chorus program, and our middle and high have the same plus orchestra and band. So no matter where you go to school, your access to STEM, to the arts, to academics and athletics is extraordinary. Over the next 5 years, there will be financial literacy standards, K-12, in partnership with our financial literacy leaders in the community. You know, we asked our community, what does success look like? And how would you measure it? And I'm not going to spend a lot of time today, don't worry, talking about accountability and how we're going to just keep getting better. But please know that we understand that we aren't satisfied yet. There will be local accountability metrics that are driven from our community-inspired accountability, and that our board has set 5-year goals around, including access to world language, reading on grade level, student access in AP coursework, students graduating eligible for the Zell Miller Scholarship, making sure that Henry County Schools is going above and beyond what is necessary because our kids deserve beyond. And our strategic plan is clear about the work of our next 5 years. And we are constantly updating the board and in public forums and providing evidence on our website of all of the activities that have occurred. And I'd encourage you to stay tuned, stay involved, and stay connected to the great work happening for kids. You know, investing in our students also requires historic investments in the professionals that make learning possible. And our board has seen with complete unity the need for competitive compensation for our teachers, our paras, our classified job families, and our leaders. And in this budget, we'll make historic improvements with an 8% raise for teachers and paraprofessionals, among many other great strides in competitive compensation. And investments continuing after last year's investments in all job families with starting salaries below $15 an hour, because all of the statistics I gave you, every adult a champion for every child is priceless. We know we need to make strides in competitive compensation, but you know what else we also have to focus on? A very clear reset on the reality of the workload falling on teachers' plates. We have convened principals and teachers to try to grapple with how do we create a better balance for our teachers' workload, and we will now enter into a study with an external partner on how we become the district that changes the profession and restores the balance so that effectiveness is possible for every kid in every classroom every day. I'm excited about not only investing in teachers and all of the professionals that make an education possible, but I'm also excited that we are a community that cares about the wellness of our professionals and is going to ambitiously pursue being better. You know, our East Blast program is proceeding with ambition thanks to you. Many of you in the room have led our East Blast 6 campaign, and immediately in March of 2020, after that passed, we got started to work. We are able to tell you that the Dutchtown High School addition is well underway. We've purchased 37 new buses in this year alone with an ambitious commitment to replacing our fleet over the next 10 years. Our Birch Creek Elementary School, which will relieve Wesley Lakes and Oakland Elementary, is scheduled to open in the fall of 2024, and the site of the former Patrick Henry High School has just been named the future home of our first STEM high school, scheduled to be open in the fall of 2026. You know, we're emerging from a pandemic. Surely we are emerging from a pandemic. I think I said that this time last year, but this time for real, we are emerging from a pandemic with stronger cross-community partnerships, a shared vision, and a commitment to get better. Our 5-year strategic plan commits to more opportunities, more access, and better outcomes for every single kid, no matter your classroom, your school, or your community in any corner of this county. And we publicly acknowledge that we are not where we need to be, but we continue our ambitious pursuit to be the fastest improving and highest achieving school district on behalf of kids, while we are known for our connectivity to kids and our belief in the capability of every child. And I know it can be said that I have rose-colored glasses, but right now I don't even know because I can't even see anything out of these glasses. But if you look around and see what I see, well, you would too, because there is nothing but belief. And while we will get better, for each other, for kids, and for our community, I believe in public education, and I invite you to believe in it with me too. For every staff member, for every community member, and most importantly, for every kid, you belong in Henry right now. And I have confidence in our future because every kid has remarkable potential that is about to be discovered and will change this world. I am so thankful you joined us today. I would like to invite our Board of Education members to join me on stage because we are going to close this out celebrating kids and celebrating you.